You talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So before I go any further, I just want to apologize for my long week absence. I just took a step back, took a little bit of time for myself, a little time to breathe and just relax before I came back and started grinding out content for you all to enjoy. I also want to thank you guys for some of you guys that reached out to me and made sure that I was okay. Yes, I am in good health. There's nothing wrong with me. I just took a step back to take a little bit of time for myself and hang out with my family. And just relax and take a little breath of fresh air, like I mentioned before I came back and grinded out Bears content for you guys. So I am happy to be back producing a lot of good Bears content for you guys. So once again, like always, thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. So today is going to be a very fun topic right here on Keek on the Mic, as the report out of Chicago is this: Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker have Halas Hall buzzing. And when we look back at the NFL draft, at Ryan Poles' very first NFL draft as the Chicago Bears GM, he didn't make a lot of friends after his first two selections in the second round. Obviously, we drafted Washington cornerback Kyler Gordon with our first second-round selection. And then with the second-round selection, we selected safety Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. And obviously, some Bears fans were extremely upset with those selections. And it had nothing to do with these two players being bad selections. Both of them are very good players in their own right. But it had everything to do with Bears fans wanting offensive help for Justin Fields. So offensive linemen, maybe some receivers. And obviously we passed a lot of good offensive linemen and receivers to select Gordon and Brisker. So I totally understand why some Bears fans would be upset with Ryan Poles' first two selections. Even though we did draft some offensive linemen later in the draft and we drafted Velus Jones in the third, those Bears fans wanted to see more offensive players selected earlier in the draft, especially in the first two picks in the second round. So I totally understand why some Bears fans would be just a tad bit upset with us selecting two defensive players in the second round. But obviously, people inside the building, meaning inside Halas Hall, didn't really care much about the criticism that they were getting over the Chicago Bears selecting Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker. And they definitely don't care now. And this is where the report gets interesting, because reports have trickled out over the past couple of weeks that the two rookies have been looking very sharp in early practices. And most people may ask me and say, well, Keek, this really has nothing for us to get excited about, right? And I would say absolutely wrong. We should definitely be excited about these reports trickling out that these two players that we drafted in the second round are developing well so far. And fans should also be really excited about these two players and how well they are doing so far. And Bears insider Adam Jahns revealed on the Hoge Jahns podcast that he's spoken to multiple players and coaches at Halas Hall, and every time the subject of those two rookies comes up, there is legitimate excitement expressed, and everyone in the building thinks the Chicago Bears have something special in Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker. And obviously, like all players that you bring in, this is great to hear that Gordon and Brisker are progressing well. And I will be the first one to say right here on Keek on the Mic, and like most Bears fans, I was a little shocked at first that they decided to take two defensive players with their second-round selections instead of maybe drafting one of those really good second-round receivers that were in the NFL draft. But I was still overall pleased that the two players that we selected in Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, and especially when you really look at Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, you're getting guys that both of those guys could have gone in the first round, right? They both have the physical attributes to play right away and be those impact players, which is really important. I mentioned that in past podcasts about these two guys, and I know that Ryan Poles knew that when you don't have a first-round pick, but you did have 2 second rounds, both of those players had to come in right away and make an immediate impact and play right away. And I truly feel that both Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker will do that for the Chicago Bears defense. And then most importantly, when you look at Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon, they both have huge chips on their shoulders because rightfully so, they both could have possibly been drafted in the first round. Obviously, they dropped to the second round. The Bears got both of them, which I feel like it's a huge deal. Obviously, you guys heard Jaquan Brisker say on the phone to Ryan Poles, hey, you got the steal of the draft, right? So he already has that huge chip on his shoulder. When you look at Kyler Gordon, he was there sitting in the green room at the NFL draft, and he had to sit there through the whole first round, watching all these different players get selected over him, and obviously he dropped to the second, and that's when the Bears selected him early in the second round. So both of these players have huge chips on their shoulder, and obviously those are the type of players that Ryan Poles likes. Obviously, I talked about that as well leading up to the NFL draft, as those are the players that Ryan Poles wants on his team, players that have huge chips on their shoulders, players that are going to come in and work hard, put their head down, and prove themselves. And obviously, that just makes your football team a whole lot better when you have a bunch of players on your football team that have huge chips on their shoulder. So overall, it's really great to hear that both players have arrived at minicamp and OTAs with the intensity and hustle that Matt Eberflus is stressing for the Chicago Bears football team. And I really just want you guys to break this down. Just think about this, Bears fans. If they are already making plays in just the early practices, OTAs, minicamps, whatever, just imagine. If they're already making plays now, just wait until they actually master a new defensive scheme, get used to the speed of the game. You know, obviously there's that transition from college to NFL. Just wait until they master that speed. That will be honestly really, really scary. And I've talked about this many times on the podcast. No matter if you really, really like the picks or you really hate the picks, I truly feel that the Chicago Bears got 2 day one starters, 2 players that can come in right away and make our defense a whole lot better. Obviously, secondary was a huge need for the Chicago Bears football team. And now you got hopefully a starting corner alongside Jalen Johnson for years to come. And now you got a hybrid safety that can play free safety, that can come in the box and play strong safety. Jaquan Brisker is a complete safety. So I truly feel, and I'll say this firsthand, I was shocked that they took 2 defensive players as well, too, in the second round. But I truly feel that we got 2 day one starters, 2 guys that will make an immediate impact. And I am really excited to watch these 2 guys play. And I'm really excited to see what they actually bring to the Chicago Bears defense as we near ever closer to the Chicago Bears season. So let me ask you guys this before I end today's episode of Geek on the Mic. Are you guys excited to watch Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker play this season? Like I said, I am truly excited to watch these 2 guys play, and I'm excited to watch them, to continue to watch them develop into hopefully really, really, really good players for years to come for the Chicago Bears defense. Before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll be back for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.